Hello, I'm John Bachman. Welcome to Newsmax TV. We're here in Atlanta with Ambassador Andrew Young. He, of course, served as the UN ambassador during the Carter administration. We're here in Atlanta for the Hope Global Financial Dignity Summit. Ambassador Young also served as mayor of Atlanta. He served in Congress representing the state of Georgia. And he, of course, also served right alongside Dr. Martin Luther King during the height of the civil rights movement. Ambassador Young, thanks for spending some time with us.
Good to be with you.
All right, so we've just seen the re-election of Barack Obama. Which one of his presidential campaigns and victories do you think is more significant to history of this country?
I think they're both significant. The first one was unbelievable. And in the second one, he overcame really very difficult odds. But I think it was the same thing that won in both of them. It was grassroots get out the vote organization. And they pinpointed their vote, and they worked on it, and they organized it, and they delivered it in a very disciplined manner. I've never seen campaigns run any better, except the one I ran for mayor. But it was the same kind of campaign.
So some things never change, and you can't get past the grassroots efforts. You talked about the challenges. No president since FDR has been reelected with unemployment as high as it is, and it's even higher for African Americans. The number of Americans living in poverty is at an all-time high. And a number of Americans receiving some sort of government assistance is also at an all-time high. What does this Obama victory under these circumstances say about the state of our country at this time and the state of politics?
Well, it says that we don't understand the state of our country at this time, nor do we understand our politics. That I say our problem is, and our challenge is, that all politics is local, but all economics is global. And neither candidate tried to, or could they have, educated the population on the complexities of a global economy. But for instance, we're talking about a $16 trillion deficit. And we say that's because of government spending. I don't see it that way. I say we spent money on the Second World War, but the money we spent on the Second World War, the profits on it were revolved back into the local economies, the national economy, through the GI Bill and through the highways and the suburban developments that were financed by the profits on the war. We even rebuilt our enemies, Germany and Japan, on the profits of that war. We fought the Iraq War on a credit card, and the profits never came back.
That's saying something. I want to focus back on this election that we saw. We've heard already calls from the Republican Party talking about outreach towards Hispanic voters, less so towards minority voters and African Americans. Do you think it's safe to say that, given the way African Americans voted in this past election, the Republican Party has written them off? And that the Democratic Party maybe takes them for granted?
I think that both may be true, but both are irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you think of me. It's what I think of you that counts. See? Now, I voted Republican when I first came to Georgia. I voted Republican because Eisenhower was running for president, and if Eisenhower was appointing the judges, they had to talk to the black representatives in the Republican Party. This was the old Lincoln Republican Party in the South. And all of the federal judges appointed across the South that delivered us in the civil rights movement were appointed by Eisenhower. We've always said that we have no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only permanent interests.
Talking about some of the black commentators we see on TV, PBS, Tavis Smiley, also Dr. Cornel West, they have criticized President Obama for catering to Hispanics with his work permits for children of undocumented parents, his support of same-sex marriage, his support of Planned Parenthood towards women, but not really specifically targeting any issues focused towards African Americans, gang violence, poverty rates. Are the criticisms of Dr. West and Mr. Smiley warranted?
Sure. They're warranted and they're necessary. Cornell is a prophet crying in the wilderness. He has no intention to be political. He's saying, "Thus saith the Lord." And I sometimes disagree with even his interpretations of the prophets. But he has a right to say it, and there needs to be more rational and intellectual criticism of everything we do.
We'll talk more about civil rights in a moment. I do want to continue to talk about President Obama as a leader, and particularly since you served in the capacity as UN ambassador during the Carter administration. Give us your take on how the President, Secretary Clinton, and the current UN ambassador, Susan Rice, have handled this situation in Libya and Benghazi.
Well, I think that if you put it in the context of that whole region in turmoil, you'd have to say they have done very, very well, considering the dangers and the possibilities. The thing that I think we missed on, was not seeing that this is not an Iran problem or an Iraq problem or a Libyan problem or a Syrian problem. What's his name? Jim Clifton of Gallup wrote a very interesting little book, The Coming Jobs War. All these were about jobs. So it started with the guy who couldn't get a business permit in Tunisia, pouring gasoline on himself and lighting it. Normally that would have been just one dead peasant. But in a world where everybody took out their cell phones and filmed it and then put it across the world, it sparked what we call the Arab Spring. Now, we thought it was about democracy, and we addressed it as a problem, as a quest for democracy. But according to Gallup's polling of 150 countries every month, nobody ever talks about democracy anymore. The only thing that they don't talk about the environment, the only thing they talk about is jobs.
So the best defense against this, these Islamic extremists who have tried to co-opt the Arab Spring is economic security and stability and jobs. That's the best weapon against it.
I tell you, Susan is smart and she's tough, and she'll give the senators, I have seen her handle, tough African dictators that totally look down on her as a woman and as a little girl. And she can stand toe-to-toe with them. And she's got a nice, she and Hillary Clinton have a lot in common. They're both smart, tough ladies.
Do you think she'd be a great representative as a Secretary of State?
I do.
Domestic issues, Washington has some incredibly important challenges ahead of them here in the near term. Debt, taxes, the size and scope of government. Do you think President Obama is pursuing the right policies, advocating for tax increases on the wealthy when some people consider it to be class warfare and divisive?
I don't think. I think you make that class warfare argument. It's not class warfare. It's people who have a sense of community responsibility and patriotism toward their nation. I know, say, that my parents got an education, a college education in this country. My father was born in 1896. And so everything that has happened in my life is because of good government. and because the United States of America was the greatest nation on the face of the earth. If I now forget the fact all of the investment in, actually I've been able to trace it all the way back to 1840 when my ancestors were in Louisiana. And somehow they thrived, they got land. I think my name is Andrew Jackson Young because Andrew Jackson gave land to slaves and freedmen and Indians in exchange for joining the militia to defend New Orleans. So there's nobody that is rich on their own. They are all rich because of the United States government.
Last question for you. You, of course, are the co-chairman of this summit on financial education. The other co-chairman, John Hope Bryant, says that this financial education, financial dignity is the civil rights issue of this generation. Considering you were there for the Selma March, Birmingham, you witnessed the assassination of Dr. King, does the financial education really compare to things like voting rights, Jim Crow laws, desegregation? Is it really that important?
It's even more important. I think we would have started with, we were organized to redeem the soul of America from the triple evils of racism, war, and poverty. Now, if we couldn't start with poverty, because that would have made us communists, so to start talking economics. We talked about racism in biblical terms, and we talked about war in biblical terms. I'm talking about poverty in biblical terms too now. But everybody needs to understand how money works. I mean, I had been to Congress and mayor and, you know, got more honorary degrees than I need. I never focused on money. You know, Dr. King thought that the only way we would stay free was to resist the temptation of wealth. He'd say, you have to conquer the love of wealth and the fear of death in order to really be a child of God. And he made us conquer the love of wealth because we had a top salary of $6,000 a year. No retirement, no pension, you know, that was, he said, you know, you need just enough to get by on, and that'll keep us working and struggling, and we will keep our values straight. If we once start accumulating big houses and fancy cars, we will lose, you know, our direction, as previous generations have done. Our children lost our direction, see, because they have been compromised. They have found freedom at the ballot box, and then they have taken on plastic chains around their minds and their souls and mortgaged their future on credit cards. See? And they have to learn better. They have to learn the value of ideas and health as opposed to wealth. And the two are not mutually exclusive, but we think we can have wealth without good ideas and without values and without a clear vision. See? And wealth without vision is insanity. And so what we're trying to do is help people to understand, one, that this is a free enterprise global economy. And if you don't understand the game, the rules of the game, it's sort of like going out on the football field thinking we're playing touch, and everybody else has got on pads and shoulder pads and helmets and knocking the hell out of you. But we saying, that's not fair. Wait a minute, why you knock me down? Well, the rules of the game, you've got to stand toe to toe, and you've got to know what the rules of finance are.
Ambassador Andrew Young, thanks so much for spending some time with us. It's been an enlightening conversation, enjoyable, and it's great meeting you, great talking to you.
Well, good.